I hope that everybody has had a wonderful weekend, wherever you might be and wherever you might be listening to us from today. Today's quote really kind of goes hand in hand with the previous weeks that we've been leading up to. We now have exactly 1 week before AEP opens, right? Woohoo! So we've got basically 7 days to go before our Medicare season officially kicks off and we can start hit the ground running. And if you've been joining me over the weeks, I've really tried to hopefully at least at a high level and a little bit of a deeper overview as well too, kind of dive down deep into the Medicare subject and get you prepared and get you ready for this year's AEP so that when next Monday hits, we can just hit the ground running and just really get out there and really do some really good work for everybody and just do right by what we need to do as far as our customers are concerned. So and what that the main reason I chose today's quote in the fact of what Albert Einstein said is that he said, try not to become a person of success, but try to become a person of value. And this can really be related to just about any part of your lives. But in the essence of the whole Medicare season and what we've been trying to do is, when you're presenting, whether it be a Medicare product or an individual health insurance product to a client or even a group for a sale, you really want to highlight the value and what the actual product's going to do for them. And rather than necessarily focus on price per se, because if you can actually show somebody the value in something, whatever you're actually showing them, be it a healthcare product or even a car or anything else in the sales world, if that value can be picked out of there and it can be shown, you can be super successful at that, and then you don't have to worry about everything else. It's actually going to all fall in line for you. So I thought that was really appropriate in regards to as far as my Medicare portion is concerned, and anything else that might be even going on in anybody's lives at this point. Just kind of something to really kind of take to heart and push forward. So happy Motivation Monday, everybody. It's about 8:04. We're going to get rolling today. I appreciate you joining me. If this is your first time, or if it is your fifth time or 10th time or 100th time, welcome, welcome. So what we're going to actually do today is we're going to have about 4 little sections we're going to go through. We're going to quickly go through a tip of the week. We're going to actually touch on the prior tip of the week as well. We're going to hit your trends and see what we're doing on our numbers. We've had a little bit of a shakeup on our leaderboard, so get ready for that in that aspect. And then we're going to jump into today's sales technique. We're going to really quickly, briefly do probably a quick 5-minute overview on the Medicare topic, and then we're actually going to jump into the NatGen Medigap product today. So for anybody that's interested in learning how Medigap works and the NatGen product in particular, we're actually going to be doing that for our sales technique today. So starting after this week, going into actually the AEP season, we don't actually have the specific topics lined up yet. However, we're going to kind of be doing a little bit more of the more common sales techniques and ways to really communicate with the audience. It might be more related to the 65+ crowd, but it's really kind of up in the air at this point. So I do want to also remind you that obviously, we have the email address of the training at ahcpsales.com that I'll show you towards the end, but you can always let us know if you have something that you'd like to learn or something that, has really been on the tip of your tongue and just something you'd really like to learn a little bit more deeper about, or if you've heard somebody comment on something that they'd like to learn, throw us those suggestions. You actually, if you have not already, you may be getting it today, or it might have gone out Friday late. There actually has been a little bit of a feedback poll sent out, especially to the individuals that are joining me on Wednesdays for a Medicare training. If you take a moment, it's a real quick, I think, 5-question feedback that it's really going to kind of poll you on how you feel that the series has been going so far. And it really also tries to get some information to see what you'd really like to see and what you'd like to see us present on that topic as well. So if you haven't already gotten that, keep an eye out for it. It's going to be something that's going to be hitting your inboxes here pretty shortly. With that said, last week's tip of the week, we actually went over the upcoming training schedule. So last week we actually went over part C and D and we reviewed that. And today we're actually going to go over A, B, C, D and the Medigap plans as well. We do have our compliance topic that's going to be coming up towards the end of this week. Again, it still hasn't been scheduled. There's been a little issue with our compliance team just basically signing off with the final okay on that, because obviously compliance needs to be 100% accurate on our side as well. We want to make sure that you have the most current and the most proper information, of course. So once that information has been completely signed off and check marked on, we will get that out to you immediately and let you know when that's going to be rolling out. So for this week's tip of the week, we've got a couple real quick fast cast sprints that we're going to be talking about today. The first one that we have here is actually going on from October 1st to March 31st, where you have a monthly sprint as far as the bonus campaign is concerned. So what you can actually do is, if you're actually looking at the Medicare supplements here, if you actually sell 3 to 9, your actual policy bonus for the month is going to be $100, 10 to 20, 125, and 20 plus. So if you look down at the bottom there, for example, if you sell 9 Medicare supplemental policies in a qualifying month, you're actually going to earn an extra $900. If you sell 10 that month, you'll earn an extra $1,250. So this should actually have been already distributed out if you have this information in there. We actually had discussed this at one time, but we wanted to put that back out there, let you know that this is still ongoing all the way through March 31st of 2019. Likewise, there is an additional one here where you can earn a trip to Cabo. You can actually push some sales. So this one's actually October 1st through December 31st when you're doing supplemental policies with the Nat Gen side of things, which is we're going to be talking about in just a moment. They're actually going to be sending you to Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. So that's an amazing trip, something amazing to really look into. In this one, during the contest period, if you sell 100 Nat Gen MedSup policies, we'll actually send you to Cabo. Or if you sell 150 Nat Gen MedSup policies, they'll send you and a guest to Cabo. So 150, look at that mark. You got you and your significant other, or just a friend if you want to go to Cabo and spend some time. And it looks like there's a third opportunity here, is that if you're the top selling writing agent overall, they're actually going to send you and one guest to Cabo, and it looks like you're going to be upgraded to a private suite. So that in and of itself, going to Cabo is just an amazing opportunity. So keep that in the back of your mind when we go over the MedSup policies today. You'll actually see, and I'll kind of touch on it real quick here, the MedSup policies will actually sell themselves in and of itself if it is an original Medicare sale, of course. But really those MedSup policies, as we're going to dive into in just a moment, they're going to go hand in hand with those A and B policies. So they should be really easy to bundle those together. And during this AEP season, we're going to be doing a lot of business. So I don't see any reason why we shouldn't have quite a few of you getting over 100 in this aspect. So good luck on that. If you have any questions on it, reach out to your upline. You can always reach out to us if you have questions as well too. If you have not received the information as far as the emails are concerned, let me know. You can always, of course, pop something into our questions or our chat box, during the middle of this as well too. So with that said, as I take a quick drink here to wet my whistle, we're going to walk into our AHCP trends for the day. So there wasn't really any change in our short-term medical aspect, but NatGen's still holding strong with the lead on that. It's doing really, really good. It was just kind of flat in the week and no real big up spike, but that's not a bad thing, not a bad thing whatsoever. There was, however, a nice increase in our fixed benefit sales, with VBA still leading the way. We're going on over 8 weeks in a row at this point. It's about 8.5 weeks in that aspect, but excellent job pushing the fixed benefit on the VBA side, everybody. And if you look at this, our supplements all increases across the board for our accident, critical illness, and dental. On the accident side, we actually had Golden Rule taking over the top spot. We had actually had a little bit of a switch up right there. Critical illness, CBL is still hanging just barely onto the lead, but it's up there in the lead. And as far as NHIC, it actually has pushed Golden Rule out of the dental lead. So they're kind of neck and neck, and Golden Rule have been leading for probably, I think, almost 6 or 7 weeks on the dental side of things. But great job to everybody doing this. The numbers are just amazing, and I see nothing but increased numbers as we roll into AEP and at the open enrollment season as well too, for the individual healthcare side of things. So as I mentioned before, we do have a little bit of a change up here on our leaderboard. So let's take a look at who we got first. So this week in our short-term med, Dustin, you are still holding on strong. Great job there. Now, where we actually have our change up is Katya actually is taking over second. So Susan was in second last week, but she dropped down just a little bit this week, but Katya is jumping up on the board on the short-term med side. So great job, you three. Andrew, you were right below Susan this week. You were right in that leaderboard, and you were on third last week, but great job to everybody in the short-term side. You guys are doing an amazing job. The numbers that I'm seeing being posted there are just outstanding. Some of the highest figures that I've ever seen in any given year. So great job, everybody. Now, on the limited benefit side, we have a little bit of a shakeup here at number 1. So Katya had been holding strong in the first spot, but this week we've got Kent in the number 1 spot. Excellent job, Kent. You actually shot out of nowhere and came up and took the lead in this one. So great job in that aspect. Katya, you were just right under that, but excellent work this week as well on your side. And Robert, you got pushed down just a little bit, but that's okay. Everybody is doing an amazing job. And we had Filbert on the board last week, and he had jumped up in there as well. So everybody, like I said, everybody always deserves a round of applause. So give yourself that round of applause, and just take to heart that everybody's just doing an amazing job. So great job, everybody. I really appreciate the hard work and the effort on that. Makes my job a lot easier on the weekends as far as going over the numbers, but I love giving shout outs and just giving kudos to anybody that deserves it. And even if your name isn't on the board, everybody deserves a shout out in that aspect. Everybody's just doing an amazing job and amazing work right now. Now, as I mentioned, what we've been doing over the past few weeks is we've actually been going over a bit of a review on the AEP side of things in the exact of reasons that, many actual reasons. What we're doing was we were looking at, reasons to sell Medicare. And one of those main reasons why is there is a huge pool of individuals out there. For example, last year, about 4.8 million individuals had no supplemental coverage whatsoever. So if you just think about to that Cabo trip, 150, that would be no problem to grab 150 of those to take you and a guest and get that 4.8 million people reeled in and see if they can get some sort of supplemental coverage. But in and of itself, the main thing as far as our main over AEP review has been concerned with is that we've really tried to give you a set of tools to really prepare yourself to dive into when next Monday hits. We talked about making sure that you've already set up your marketing plan, and of course making sure that the AHIP and the contracting with the carriers and your certificates have all been transmitted. Learning your systems, building on your current pipeline and expanding your current pipeline, and of course upcoming here right before AEP rolls out, on the compliance side of things. But the main reason for this is not only just to really kind of refresh your memory and to make sure that you're prepared, but it really kind of takes that pressure and that anxiety out of things so that when Monday comes, all that you need to do is just pick up the phone, start dialing, or you already have those appointments set or those marketing events set. In that aspect, it's really going to take that aspect of any sort of stress off of your plate, and you can just focus on doing right by your customer and making sure that their needs are met. Now, on the other hand of things, what we've also been doing is we've been doing kind of a deep dive into Medicare in and of itself. So what we did is we started with parts A and B, and over about a 2-week period, we actually touched on A and B, and then we repeated that for anybody that had missed it. So on part A, as far as Medicare is concerned, part A is more or less going to be your inpatient or your inside insurance. I kind of look at part A and B in those two words, in and out. Part A being the care that's or the coverage that's going to help for your inpatient hospital care, things like inpatient care and skilled nursing facilities and home health care and even hospice care. So we did some diving on that one, and we actually really talked about the fact that there's generally no premiums. If there is a premium, really dependent upon how long you had paid into your Medicare taxes. And then we discussed the other specific topics in that. If you have more questions on that, or you feel you haven't really gotten a fully rounded coverage on that, let me know. I'd be glad to work with you one-on-one, or even anybody in our training team can help answer any questions you have on that. Likewise, on the part B side, being the flip side of that, being your your outpatient side as far as your doctor's office visits. So when you go in to see your doctor or you go in to see a specialist like on an outpatient basis, Part B is really going to help pay for those doctor visits and those outpatient visits, as well as things like your durable medical equipment, x-rays, lab tests, mainly everything that you get in your standard insurance as far as if you're sick or if you need to go see the doctor in that aspect. It is optional, but just to remember to really kind of touch on that, there is the possibility of a late enrollment penalty. So it is something that's recommended to actually be added in once they automatically get that coverage signed up, but it is available to everyone who gets that Part A. Now, we then last week, we actually also went into Part C and D for one of our repeat weeks. Part C being your Medicare Advantage plans. Now, Part C is really the alternative to what you would really consider quote unquote original Medicare, right? So Part C is going to take all the parts of original Medicare. Now, being that Part C is regulated by CMS and it's required to have Parts A and B in there, it also includes additional coverage, which the main portion that everybody likes about the Advantage side of things is the fact that it has prescription coverage, or Part D. Now, notwithstanding the fact that it's got A, B, and D in there, it does also include some additional extras sometimes, things like maybe some hearing or vision benefits, or even some podiatry benefits as well too, really depending upon the carrier's coverage in that aspect. And then Part D, of course, it is optional, just like Part D or Part B is as well. Again, Part D, just like Part B, may have a late enrollment penalty if it's something that you go for a period of months without coverage. Again, if that's something that you still need some clarification on, or if maybe, let's say, the donut hole or other aspects of Part D weren't something that was really covered as as you feel is completely that might help you, I'd be glad to help you. Reach out to me, let me know, and we can certainly go over that. Now, what we're going to really dive into, focus a little bit more in depth on today is our Medigap side of things, or our supplemental plans. So this is going to really help you get the ball rolling in regards to those Cabo trips. Now let me go ahead and switch on over to our Medigap. There we go. So we're going to really briefly today talk about what a Medicare supplement is. We're going to go over the plan designs as far as on the NatGen side of things. We're going to discuss the enrollment process, and then what actually happens post-sale after the enrollment as far as the submission and the process of waiting for the approval from the underwriting if that's necessary. So what are Medicare supplements, right? So a Medicare supplement also is referred to as a Medigap plan, or just supplementals in the Medicare world. It's really going to be a policy that's going to help the individual pay those additional healthcare costs that original Medicare doesn't cover. So if you remember from our Parts A and B side of things, original Medicare has the possibility of co-payments, co-insurance. There's a deductible on Part A side that they have to pay up front if they were to go into the hospital, right? So those deductibles, co-insurance, and co-payments, if you remember from my Part A and B side, we went through an initial breakdown as far as an example, and the example cost with, let's say, for example, I think it was a 30-day stay in the hospital, plus I believe it was about a 20-day or 25-day stay in a skilled nursing facility. It came out to be about $12,000 or more just for an individual to go into the hospital for a serious injury, or even just a minor injury. An individual that's 65 and older tends to take maybe a little bit longer to heal possibly. So, their inpatient hospital stay and any sort of subsequent inpatient facility stay for like rehab, for example, that might be a little bit longer than somebody that's a little bit on the younger side of things. So those co-payments and those co-insurance and those deductibles really can rack up. And the other thing to remember is that on original Medicare, unlike a Part C policy or an Advantage plan, there are no caps on that. So let's say that an individual gets injured twice within a benefit year, they have the possibility of paying 2 deductibles on that, multiple co-insurance payment, multiple co-pays. So these Medicare supplement plans are really there to allow the individual to really have that peace of mind and that protection, so that all those costs that they're going to possibly have out of pocket are going to be taken care of. And then really the other aspect of it is the mental piece, because as a lot of research has shown, your mental focus and your state of mind while you're healing or while you're going through a traumatic incident, that mental state of mind can be a really big piece of the puzzle. So if you have the state of mind where you can really focus on getting well, not have to worry about any of those out-of-pocket costs, and really even in this aspect, flexibility to go to really any doctor or hospital that Medicare is covered by, that really allows that mental aspect and that peace of mind to just really fade away and let them focus on getting well. So just knowing that, even me, for example, just knowing the fact that I don't have to pay those individual charges, that I do have a policy in place that's going to supplement my original Medicare in that aspect to pay those fees, that would be something that I would really jump on if I were a Medicare enrollee myself. I won't give you my exact age, but I got about 20, maybe 20 years to go in that aspect before I hit that realm. But in that aspect, and when I do get to that point, this will definitely be something that I consider, and you'll see why in a moment, why not only withstanding the fact that you can focus on getting well and is taking care of those fees, but the other additional benefits that are involved in the supplemental plan are just amazing. Additionally on this, there is no waiting period. So if you were to enroll in a Medicare Medigap plan for your Medicare enrollment this year, for example, if you enrolled in, let's say, October on AEP, it would be effective the first of the following month. Now, in some important details in regards to the supplement insurance, in and of itself, the insurance does not provide any sort of standalone coverage. So the individual does have to be enrolled in Medicare's Part A and B. Now, there are no additional benefits as far as any drug benefits, any vision, dental, or hearing aid, things of that nature, nor does it duplicate any benefit that's already being paid or taken care of by Medicare in and of itself. So really, this plan in and of itself does exactly what its name implies. It supplements and it covers any of the gaps that Medicare, original Medicare, does not cover. So some real quick important details to really go over as far as the terms and conditions. One of the nice things about this is that members will get a 12-month rate guarantee for their first year. After the first year, their premium may increase each year, but we'll never change those premiums unless we do so for all the policies that the enrollee has, for example, in their state on an entire class basis. So just like Medicare Part A, this actually coincides with each benefit period's coverage. So again, a benefit period starts the day they go into the hospital and or a skilled nursing facility, and then it ends when they haven't received any care for 60 consecutive days. That's what defines a benefit period. So after they've gone 60 consecutive days, after that initial incident, if they had a secondary incident after that that wasn't related, that would actually be then at that point a new benefit period. So that's when those multiple deductibles, those multiple co-insurance and co-pays come into play. So as far as eligible expenses are costs that are deemed medically necessary by Medicare and covered expenses under the plan. So just like on parts A and B, anything for like things like durable medical equipment in that aspect, it is considered, it has to be an eligible expense covered and deemed necessary by Medicare. And then the Medicare approved amount is the amount paid that the physician who accepts the assignment can be paid. So that does include things like those deductibles, co-insurance, and co-payments with that original Medicare plan. So now into the good stuff. So as far as the plan options and benefits, these plans are very similar in nature in regards to one supplement plan for another. There are different plan types. So for example, there's a plan A, a plan F, a plan F high deductible, a plan G, and a plan N. Now, please note on here, the one thing that I'd like to let you know is that the amount that's listed here for the deductible is not correct. The deductible that's in here, the $1,316, was last year's deductible. Our legal team has not yet given the new plan rate chart for the deductible amount, but don't fret, don't worry, that deductible amount, even though it did increase, is still being paid at the full amount. These are just last year's amounts. So just keep that in mind as you're looking through this, that regardless that it says the amount from last year, the amount for this year as far as things like their hospital stay amounts for like the dollars per day, things as like for days 91 through 150 and that deductible, those are going to be covered at this year's new rates. It just hadn't been updated yet. Once those plan rate charts get updated and we have the actual new legal doc, we're going to actually disseminate that to everybody. So keep an eye out for that. But just keep in the back of your mind that while the amount is not exactly correct on here, once the legal team actually updates that, those amounts will update to correspond to the 2019 plan year rate amounts. So with that said though, like I mentioned, this is really going to cover those gaps. It's going to cover that deductible that Part A has. So with Medicare, you have that initial deductible that you have to pay when you first go into the hospital, right? So basically that takes care of those first 60 days in the hospital. That first thing that you owe up front is that deductible. With these supplemental coverages, it's actually going to take care of that deductible for you. And then likewise, days 61 through 90, 90 through 150, those amounts per day that the individual has, which would be considered that co-insurance portion, that X amount of dollars per day, that's when this plan is going to kick in and take care of that at 100%. Now, for things like blood, if you remember, original Medicare does not pay for the first 3 pints of blood. The nice thing about this plan, you guessed it, it does supplement that. It actually will pay for those first 3 pints and take care of that as far as the blood side of things is concerned. And as far as hospice care is concerned as well, for the first 20 days, Medicare actually has zero cost for that. So the plan won't have anything that it actually pays because the individual enrollee has no cost anyhow. However, Just like the Part A side of things, there is a daily amount that actually is not covered that Medicare requires the enrollee to pay per day. So this plan will, again, as you guessed it, it'll jump in and pay that exact amount per day for that amount of days 21 through 100 through their skilled nursing facility. Now, things like outpatient, what it'll actually do with Medicare, you actually have a deductible that has to be paid before Medicare is going to jump in and start paying things. The actual deductible amount, if you're in a plan F, will actually be taken care of. But on the other aspect of things, normally the Medicare or the original Medicare side of things has what's considered an 80-20. So the individual enrollee is then left with 20% of those costs or a co-insurance portion. This plan's going to jump in and actually pay that 20% for them. And then for things like excess charges, which are charges above anything that Medicare approved charges, if you're on the plan F, for example, the plan's going to pay 100% of the charges that are not covered by Medicare. And likewise, for outpatient medical coverage, this benefit for blood is very similar. The first 3 pints, it's 100%. Additional pints are 20% co-insurance after the deductible. So this plan is really going to take care of all of those gaps and all of those actual amounts that the individual is going to need to be paying. So something that's additionally nice about this, though, is that there is an additional benefit of emergency care on the outside the U.S. So if you remember back from those original series and when we did the webinars, there is no care. So if they're traveling outside the country, or let's say, for example, you're going to Cabo, if you've sold 100 of these, you're actually going to get coverage if you're in the tier of the plan F or the plan G or the plan N. The coverage that's on this, they're actually going to have the individual enrollee pay the first $250, kind of like a co-insurance portion, and then the plan's going to actually pay 80% of the remaining costs up to a lifetime maximum. So while it's not 100% coverage, it does cover the vast majority of those charges. So even if an enrollee might have other supplemental coverage that covers them if they're outside the US, or even if they don't, this is something that's really an added additional benefit bonus for that. Now, eligibility. So let's talk about eligibility here. So applicants that are eligible to apply for medical supplemental insurance, obviously, is if they are covered under Medicare Parts A and B, that is a stipulation to be enrollment, if they're 65 years of age or older, or if they're eligible to Medicare due to a disability. So for example, if they run SSDI, right? So the way that the actual plan works is that, as I mentioned before, the coverage does start on the first day of the following month. So the nice thing about this is that the individual enrollee is actually going to get the ability to choose the initial date that their premium gets drafted out of their account. So the bank draft that they can choose to be drawn out of their account can be drawn anytime from the 1st through the 11th day of the month. So they can actually choose that automatic withdrawal date. And then the form of payment that they accept then is automatic withdrawal, EFT or ACH, however you would best know that. Now, there are 3 ways that you can actually do a submission and complete an application. There is an opportunity to do a voice signature, there is an e-signature, and a paper application. Now, I'm actually not going to go too in-depth as far as the full process and the full flow. If you would like, I actually do have a supplemental video on this that will actually go through the enrollment. I'd be glad to actually send that out to anybody who's interested. What it actually does is it actually, for the e-signature side of things, it actually walks through working with Triad and logging onto the Triad system and then filling out the application and submitting it through the agent portal. It's a really easy flow. Really, it's more or less just logging into the ngih.triad site. You would then go into their e-app area and then you click that and fill out the application. Very, very simple, quick process. Once they actually have completed the application, there is actually an opportunity to do a signature. They have a passphrase, a DocuSign, and then in that aspect, once they've actually finished the completion of the application, they're going to be notified of the decision via email. Now, so again, if you have any questions in regards to the voice signature side of things or the e-signature or even filling out the paper application, please let me know. I can send that video to you and it actually gives a very nice walkthrough. The main thing to remember here though is that if you do have questions on the e-signature side or if you have questions on Triad, I'm going to give you their phone number. So if everybody has a moment to grab a pen. Our legal team doesn't have that phone number stated on the screen here, but I'll give it to you a couple times. Their number is 801-812-8302. Again, their phone number is 812-8302, and that's the agency services department for the Triad team that actually can assist you with that if you have any questions with utilization of the portal. Similarly, the telephone portion of it, like the voice signature, it's a completed telephone application from start to finish over the phone with a specialist from NGAH. You're basically reaching out to their underwriting department, and then you're going to be completing an application over the phone using that process. Some things to keep in mind is that all telephonic and web applications must be set up to have the premium paid using bank draft. So when you're completing an application using the telephone process, what the individual underwriter is going to do is they're going to pre-qualify the applicant based on some medical questions, and then they're going to go through the process of asking a series of questions. Make sure to not prompt or assist the individual in any way, because if they do hear that you're coaching or assisting them, they have to stop the process and then restart over. Make sure that when you do call, if you're doing that, that you really prepare for the call. So when you contact the underwriting or the telephonic underwriting department to complete what would they consider to be an interview, both you and the applicant are actually going to be required to provide certain information. So for example, you're going to need your producer number, you're going to need the type of plan, the effective date, any plan discount information, and then the applicant's current policy information if the applicant's doing a replacement, that is. On the applicant side of things, they're going to need things like their social security number, their Medicare ID number, or their MBI number, their Medicare card. They'll need their PCP information, any sort of prescription information, and of course, last but not least, the most important piece, they're going to need their bank routing and account number information. So you're going to really want to prep the customer or the enrollee in that aspect and make sure that they have all that information available before initiating that telephonic process. That'll actually help it make it go a lot smoother, so that when you get to that point, it'll just be bingo bango and you're done. Now, some of the states that we have available at this time. Keep in mind that when October 15th hits, we are going to have 1 or 2 states that are going to be added to this list. So this is the current listing of states. We've got 14 here that we've got listed so far. So on the 15th of this month, when AEP rolls out, we're going to have at least 1 more, possibly 2 more to be added to this list. Again, once the legal team gets that signed off and checkmarked, those will be added, and you will be updated accordingly in regards to the list as well too. Now, on the supplement side of thing, again, just to review, it's really going to protect them from those out-of-pocket costs. So again, what this really does is it kind of puts it in the mindset of, you know what, I don't need to worry about getting injured. Now, while nobody ever really wants to get injured, accidents do happen, but if somebody, God forbid, does have some sort of an injury or even sort of an emergency situation, this is really going to help protect them from those out-of-pocket expenses. Notwithstanding the expenses, it's really going to take care of that peace of mind that they can really just focus on themselves, focus on getting well, and everything else is going to be taken care of. So again, they have multiple options. If you remember, there's different plan types and different plan levels to choose from. And another nice thing is they do have a 30-day free look period. So they have the flexibility to see any doctor, of course, if the medical facility or the hospital accepts Medicare. If they do have more than 1 individual in the household, there is the possibility of a household premium discount, and guaranteed issue is available. So some of the TNC, the terms and conditions and limitations and exclusions, so that we just want to go over and cover real quick. So some of the services for non-Medicare eligible expenses, unless they're specifically covered under the policy, things like routine exams, take-home drugs, and eye refractions, those are excluded. Some exclusions in regards to services for which a charge is not normally made in the absence of insurance, so things that are not going to be covered in that aspect under Medicare normally. Any sort of a loss or expense that's payable under the Medicare supplement insurance policy or certificate. So for example, if they're covered under other supplemental insurance, or if Medicare's already taken that, it's going to be excluded. There's no double coverage. Some other limitations or exclusions of any expenses incurred while coverage isn't in force. So while it's pending in that aspect, or if it's going through underwriting and it's not actually in force, or if the policy itself is not in force, it's not going to be covered. And then some additional items there. So again, if you have questions on these, please make sure that you reach out and let us know. I do want to provide at least the number for member services on the National General side of things, so that if you do want to do those telephonic enrollments, is down there for new business and tele underwriting. That's the 801-812-8212 number.
The member services number in and of itself, though, at the top, the 866-916-8816 number, that's for general member services questions. And then there's also the claims and then the members and agency services numbers down below. So on this aspect, as far as the policy itself, if you have any questions on the NatGen MedSup policy, reach out to training@ngisadmin.com. Again, that's training@ngisadmin.com. That is the team that's actually going to assist you with that specific question in regards to the Medigap policy. Now, on the Medicare side of things, if you have additional questions for Medicare, remember, you've always got Medicare.gov at your back and CMS.gov. So if you have any questions or if the enrollee has any questions, go ahead and refer them there, or even yourself, jump on there and try and absorb as much information as you can. So if you're going to be rolling next Monday on the AEP, if you're going to be selling Medicare and or doing any supplemental insurance as well too, definitely utilize those if you have any questions. Now, on the term of questions, if you have any questions for me or our training team, you can always reach out to training@ahcpsales.com or agency services 877 number. The agency services team upstairs from me, an amazing group of people. I know a lot of them personally. They are happy to work with you if you have any questions, so go ahead and give them a shout out if that's something that you run into questions. So remember, what we just talked about in regards to the gap policy, if you can show them the value that's in that policy, the policy is really going to sell itself and you're really going to become successful, whether you're selling a Medigap policy, whether it be original Medicare, or whether it be a Medicare Advantage plan or even individual health insurance. If you can point out the value in anything, you're always going to be successful with what you're doing. So keep that in mind as you go through the week this week, and I wish everybody an amazing week. Everybody get out there and just hit it hard. You guys are doing an amazing job. I really enjoy being with you and spending 40 minutes every morning on the Mondays. It's an amazing time a way to really get pumped up and get the week started. So great job, everybody. And again, if you have any questions, let us know. I will talk with everybody next week. Cheers, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.